Hey everybody, Jamie from the Marine Doctors YouTube channel, and today I want to chat a little bit about a video that I released over the weekend. It was the one where the engine was not rebuilt, or did not get fixed. I want to go over what I believe happened to that engine, and that'll be at the end of the videos. If you guys, end of the video. If you guys want to pop back over to the end there and take a look, that's perfectly fine. And then I also want to cover off a question or two that was brought up by some of the replies in the comments. Now, one other thing I also want to get to is I really 100% appreciate the amount of traction I got in those videos. The likes, the replies, everything was positive. There was no trolling. You guys did fantastic, and I really appreciate the fact that you guys supported me with the videos over the weekend. It was record breaking for me. I've been at this for a really long time, and it was surreal. I'm blown away. Thank you for the support. Now, back to the video, I guess. So the question was this: do I believe that the customer asked for the carbs to rebuild, mistakenly believing that he was asking for the engine to be rebuilt? Now, it's possible, but highly unlikely. And I say this because I've already torn the engine down, so I know why it failed. And the carburetors hadn't been cleaned. They hadn't been rebuilt. They hadn't been touched. Not a sniff, not a hint, nothing. Now, I do know, and I'm going to show you guys in a bit, the engine, the condition that it came in. Something was done to the engine, but was it done at that mechanic's place? I don't know. And I'll give you guys a hint. It has something to do with a Scotch-Brite pad. We'll get to that shortly. But back to that question. Did the customer ask for a rebuild of some kind, mistakenly thinking it was going to be the engine? And I'm going to say no. And irregardless, this is my take on that question. When someone comes into my shop, and this is how we do it here, someone comes into my shop and they say, hey, I need some work done on my boat. The first thing we say is, well, what are the symptoms? We ask what the symptoms are. Then they tell us, oh, it's a little bit down on power, it bogs a little bit, so on and so forth. The first thing out of my mouth is this. Okay, we're gonna do a compression test to check the integrity of the engine to make sure that repairing your carburetors or fixing a coil or something along those lines is going to make any kind of difference. Now, this particular engine, in the shape it was in, a simple compression test would have told the technician or mechanic that you can't fix this engine by doing the carburetors. So either he made a mistake and fixed the carburetors but didn't do anything, or it didn't work or didn't help, or number two, he didn't do anything, and number three, he definitely didn't do a compression test. I didn't even have to do a compression test on this thing to know the engine was shot, because when the customer came in, it took me 5 minutes to start this thing. I know how to start these engines, and it shouldn't take anywhere near that. And when it did start to running, I could hear the pistons bouncing around in the cylinders. So if this guy ran the engine after he repaired it, and he was any kind of technician that, you know, had an ear for these things, he would know that that engine wasn't running right. Not just, hey, you need to adjust the carburetors that, hey, aren't adjustable. Who would have thought? So that's that. So again, back to always check the integrity of the engine before you do any work to it. Even if you're going to replace a water pump, believe it or not, you can have a blown head gasket that will stop the flow of water, making you think that it's a bad water pump. And then if any damage was sustained, you're checking for that at the same time to make sure that you're not going to waste a person's money. I can't tell you how many times I've had to tell customers this engine isn't worth fixing because me doing the carburetors isn't going to fix what the actual problem is. And most times the problem is severe engine damage. So we can't fix that unless the customer wants to spend a bunch of money. And carburetors or electronics or advancing the timing or whatever a person believes is going to help doesn't. You can't fix mechanical problems from the outside. Okay, let's stumble inside. I've got that engine torn apart. I know you guys been waiting to see this. I read it in the comments. Let's go take a look at what actually happened to this engine. Now, I also want to say that this engine and the reason for the failure is something that I see a ton with these engines. A ton. All right, we're getting close here. It's not going to take much longer. I got my light ready, and we're going to look inside. Okay, is that going to be too bright? Okay, so we can see scoring on the exhaust side. Now, that's the cylinder that was the worst. We can also see swirling on the inside, okay? And there, and on the plate, just let me dig out the plate. Sorry, I got ahead of myself here. If I can remember where I put the plate, I think I stuck it in here. The exhaust plate is what I'm talking about. Oh, it's right at the bottom. Well, I'm gonna need a minute to get this. So hopefully it's still on the plate. Not this one, the other one. So this plate has a deflector that deflects the flow of the exhaust as it comes out. Now, unfortunately though, it looks like it's gone, but this fits in like this. So this is what we're looking for. When I took this one apart on this side, there was creamy oil in there. So it was white or water that mixed with the oil. So that meant that water took that cylinder out and did that kind of damage. Okay, so what the water will do is it'll wash the oil off the walls, then the piston moves up and down and just scrapes and wears it out. Now, this other cylinder is interesting. Look at that. So that orange color you see, that's blow-by. This engine, apart from what happened here in this cylinder, this engine was completely worn out. It wouldn't have mattered what the guy did to this engine. There was no way that this engine was going to continue running. It was done. So I also had another question, and I'll touch on it lightly quick because I got to get back to work here, is a customer asked, he said, well, can an engine like this, can you just re-ring an engine, put standard pistons back in and put standard rings back in? And I'm going to say yes and no. For the most part, no, I disagree with people doing that because number one, you have to clean up the cylinder, which means removing material off the cylinder walls. And when you remove material off the cylinder walls, you're creating space or what is the word I want here? Oh my gosh, I can't remember. Wear. You're creating wear inside the engine. And we've got a tolerance of wear that's allowable in a cylinder before we have to oversize. So if the tolerance of wear, and I'm just throwing a number out, is say 5 thousandths worth of wear, and you're sitting at 4 thousandths already, and you take 1,000th or 2 thousandths off to clean up those cylinders and then put standard pistons back in, you're putting brand new pistons, brand new rings into a worn out engine right off the hop, and it's not going to work properly. And if it does kind of work, it's not going to work for long. So it's always best in a situation like this to oversize all the cylinders, 20 thousandths, 30 thousandths. I think we can even go as high as maybe 40 thousandths on these engines if need be. If you got to go beyond 40 thousandths and you can't afford to buy a new engine or find a used one that's going to work, you got to throw a sleeve into it. We do that kind of work around here. We don't put sleeves in ourselves, but we get them done, and we've done it in the past. So it's adding on, say, another $800, unfortunately, not to repair, but it beats the hell out of spending, say, what, $20,000 to replace an engine that you can fix for $4,000. Anyway, again, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.